to National Discourse.
Current affairs.
We must not extricate anybody from corruption. If any one of them is found wanting, the due course and the law must take its course.
Nation building.
Administration is slightly different from the last one in the fight against corruption.
We need to really task our leaders, who are the religious leaders, from the emir, from the bishops, from whoever they can.
Some of our village markets, there are people, they call them in Hausa Nakama. They are like Agberu in the markets. Whatever anything is not useful to you is not important to you.
Politics.
What happened in Benue might be political. It still has an undertone, not political, dated way back. If you follow history.
It's interactive.
Not part of Nigeria.
Okay.
And it will not be good for us.
When they gather their people, they tell them, these Hausa people are your enemies. When the Hausas gather together, they tell them, these Igbo people are your enemies. When the Yoruba people gather together, they say the same thing.
Who are we? We are just from the background. And today we are here in TSTV. And that is why we must propagate our own.
National Discourse. Weekdays on NCTV.
Hello, happy Workers' Day, Nigeria. Of course, this is actually a day that many people, wait for, because it's a day that so many people sit at home. Of course, not people like us who have to be in the studio to keep you entertained. It is Workers' Day in Nigeria. And then today we are going to talk of Workers' Day. We're going to talk about Workers' Day. And I brought someone with enormous experience and someone who is worthy to deal with this topic. He's right here in the studio after several attempts to bring him down here. And we are happy he's here finally in the studio. So I want you to sit back, enjoy everything, pick up your phone, call us, let's know what Workers' Day in Nigeria, what they are going to do. I still remain your host, Uche Uduma. We'll go for a break. When we come back, he will introduce himself and then we'll start from there. Please stay with us.
Welcome to National Discourse.
Current affairs.
We must not extricate anybody from corruption. If any one of them is found wanting, the due course and the law must take its course.
Nation building.
Administration is slightly different from the last one in the fight against corruption.
We need to really task our leaders, who are the religious leaders, from the emir, from the bishops, from whoever they can.
Some of our village markets, there are people, they call them in Hausa Nakama. They are like Agberu in the markets. Whatever anything is not useful to you is not important to you.
Politics.
What happened in Benue might be political. It still has an undertone, not political, dated way back. If you follow history.
It's interactive.
Not part of Nigeria.
Okay.
And it will not be good for us.
When they gather their people, they tell them, these Hausa people are your enemies. When the Hausas gather together, they tell them, these Igbo people are your enemies. When the Yoruba people gather together, they say the same thing.
Who are we? We are just from the background. And today we are here in TSTV. And that is why we must propagate our own.
National Discourse. Weekdays on NCTV.
Yeah, we're back from that short break, and again I say congratulations to Nigerian workers who are seated at home having a day to rest. Straight on, sir, please can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you very much, Eugene.
Thanks.
I am Zeugakbe Omuka Oyofoyi II. I am a worker. I was a staff. Now I am a worker.
What's the difference between staff and being a staff and being a worker?
Now I work. Even
Okay.
today, I'm going to be working.
Okay.
Now the staff. maybe I won't mention the establishments, but I've had bosses who gave me the opportunity to learn and to express myself in my work. Now, and I've also had some other bosses who felt I was too pushy with my ambition, that is talking about the work itself. Now, that is on one side. On the other side, I've had to work places where I was paid literally peanuts.
Okay.
I've worked with other people who've paid well. Now, but that brings me to the issue of the minimum wage and
exactly.
Yeah, take home or take to the bus stop or take to your gate. You know, the experience in Nigeria as far as working is concerned is not very interesting, because the workers are made to go through certain things that ordinarily shouldn't happen. And I think that should start changing.
Okay.
I believe that should start changing.
All right. Now, before we go into the conditions that workers in Nigeria go through, or what they're subjected to go through, because they actually made up their mind to work, let's look at this minimum wage.
Yeah.
All right. Now, our former Vice President Atiku came up to say Nigerians should hold FG responsible, for increment in minimum wage. And then he was busy lamenting on 18,000 naira minimum wage.
Yeah.
And if I can remember, he stressed on the fact that every government or every state should not look at the 18,000 naira and say that is it. I'm not supposed to go above. He encouraged people that can pay above that to pay above that. And then he was busy defending the workers that is too low. When you compare 18,000 naira to the cost of living right now,
today,
what a sharp contrast. So that 18,000 naira sustenance, is it what workers in Nigeria are going to live on?
Nobody can live on 18,000, being realistic. And this was actually brought to be in 2011. And so many years down the line today, we still talk about 18,000.
So you think it's due for review?
Actually, it's supposed to be reviewed every 5 years.
Okay.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So the workers are being owed 2 years now.
You're talking about Kogi State?
No, I mean the 18,000 is supposed to be reviewed every 5 years.
Okay.
So it's not been reviewed after 5 years. And now we have 2 years down the line again. So if they are negotiating, what happens to the 2 years that should have been reviewed? The minimum wage should have been reviewed.
So advocating it should be backdated?
Of course, because if 5 years came and you reviewed, certainly we are into 2 years. So it's remaining another 3 years for another review. But now it's so many years down the line, no review, and I'm not seeing any credible efforts to review it.
Okay, now let's talk about the union, where all the workers fall under. Talking about the
TUC and NLC.
Yeah, NLC and TUC. Now, what are they actually doing about this? Because each time we hear that workers on strike is for one agitation or the other. Now, looking at the review of this minimum wage that's been due for like 2 years down the line, what are they doing about it?
Ayuba Waba, the NLC chairman, president, has spoken recently about this review issue. And he made it expressly clear that they are not going back on any extension by the tripartite committee, because they are planning to move it forward again. And he has made it clear that they will not accept any movement forward. They must review the minimum wage to at least, if what they're even asking for is nothing. Because from 18,000, you look at some of the other countries around us, that's like $50.
Yeah.
You understand? What can $50 do for a family? And these are people who are supposed to take transport from their homes to their places of work and then back to their homes. For the number of days they have to be in the office or at work. Now, the labor unions for me are not as pushful as I would want them to be. Okay. We've seen NLC and TUC in the past. I don't know if they are soft because of the body language of the government today. But I believe that in the past, the labor unions were more pushful for the welfare of the workers. Now it's grammar. holding conferences and seminars and symposia and blowing grammar. We should see more action. Civil disobedience is one of them. Strikes is one of them. They can hold rallies. We've seen these things happen in the past. So why are they not happening now? The cost of living goes about the dates now per minute. People are suffering. Things are moving up. Inflation is going up. We say we're out of recession, but how practical is that on ground?
Are we really out of recession?
That is the question. Are we out of recession? The poor man on the street goes out to buy Gary. Does he feel that the recession has gone away? No. And these are people who you want them to stay on 18,000. And that brings me to the issue of corruption. You need to deal with the fundamentals before you can actually deal with issues of corruption. A man goes to work, comes back, 18,000 a month. Why won't he go ahead? Yes, it is illegal to do those things. Demand monies for services that you're paid for. Corruption is not just for people who are in government who have stolen our monies from the treasury. No. Workers are there in the office. You need them to push files, and they need you to give them something to do that.
Because obviously what they're earning is not sufficient for them.
It's not about being sufficient. It is not there. Before the month gets to the 10th, the man is already owing 30,000 naira.
And you're yet to pay him 18,000.
And you're yet to pay him 18,000. He has to feed his family, clothe them. He has health issues. He has school fees to pay. Dependents. How do you want a country like this to survive? It is not possible. We need the political will. You know, everything comes back to the political will. The government is not doing enough. The labor unions certainly are sleeping. In countries where they take workers' issues seriously, there should have been demonstrations against what is going on. You don't tell people since 2011 to be on 18,000 and this is 2018. It's not fair. It's not good. It's not right.
Okay, now looking beyond this, do you think there is an intentional, utmost neglect from the government when it has to do with workers?
Yes, I think so. Because if you look at the National Assembly, when they want to appropriate to themselves, it's expedited. So why would everybody sit down and leave the worker to go hungry? And look at the issues now. Those people who are even working in government as elected officers, they have people who earn this 18,000 in their offices. And you get the big bunch of money into your coffers, and then you expect the person to be doing exactly what you want him to do every single day. It's not right. So for me, the government is not doing anything. It's not about doing enough. When you say doing enough, that means they've not done anything practically. And it's disheartening. Because if we're actually doing what we're supposed to be doing, Nigeria is supposed to be way ahead of where we are today. The workforce of every nation is what makes them progress.
Sure.
Now, when the workforce is demoralized, what results do you expect? Certainly negative results. It has to go into the negative. So when we talk about balancing the economy, and you're not balancing the lives of the people you want them to balance the economy, it is not going to work. It is not going to work. Some offices, you go there, you find out that the women are doing trading. Some bring zobo, some bring water, pure water. Some bring cook food and bring to the office and sell. Is that what they're supposed to be doing in the office?
And that has a way of affecting their duties.
Of course, certainly.
Okay.
Their attention is no more 100% focused on their jobs, because they are looking for ways to edge out a living for themselves from where they operate. Now, when the person is supposed to be working on a document, somebody walks in and says, "Madam, please, I need pure water." The woman will certainly leave what she's doing and go. You see, the system is such that nobody actually faces the facts that needs to be dealt with. And I push it back to the government, because if the government has the political will and the zeal to do what they have to do, the workers are the very first people to solve their problems, and then the nation can start moving forward. If you don't do that, forget it. We'll just be speaking grammar and running around in circles.
All right, moving forward, let's look at the ugly conditions that these workers have to face, apart from the fact that their minimum wage is 18,000 naira, which actually is not enough to buy a bag of rice. That's the truth, and let's face it. Now, what are other conditions that these workers are subjected to at their workplace?
You know, people have a way these days of bottling things, and it's not good for the country. There are people who are working at places where they work overtime. And in the Labor Act, these things are supposed to be captured. If they work certain days they're not supposed to work, it's supposed to be captured as overtime. But they don't get this.
Is it that it's not captured in the Labor Act? Or,
it is captured in the Labor Act.
Or the people that hires them don't?
Yes, the employers themselves. Because the employers are comfortable with the way things are going, nobody checks them. You find out that at the end of the day, they violate these acts and nobody pays for it.
Okay.
Now, if government puts the pressure, if the agencies that are supposed to make sure that this act is obeyed to the letter is doing their job, no employer will employ somebody and then use you without paying. Now, when you look at forced labor, that's what part of the arrangement. You're employed to do A, B, C. Now you're doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H.
Now, what if it's captured in your terms of employment? Like,
most times it is not.
What if it's captured there and you actually signed for it?
That's another thing. The Labor Act says what an employer should and should not do. So if you go outside the borders of the Labor Act and start including clauses in your employment letter, and you expect the person to sign it because people are actually desperate for jobs. Now the person needs to get some money. He signs it. He goes there. That is forced labor. That is breaking the Labor Act. Now, what are the agencies who are supposed to be making sure that these things work? What are they doing? There are so many examples all over the place. People get employed, they don't get appointment letters.
Sorry, can we take the first call?
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from, please?
My name is James.
So your name is what?
I'm calling from Abuja.
Okay. Your contribution, sir?
My contribution is that I want to have an even MLC. If they are fighting, is it only for the people working in government or does it private organizations also? That is my question.
Did you get that?
No, I didn't
Sorry,
get
sorry. Can you just repeat yourself?
I want to ask the minimum wage and even chairman. We affect private organizations also.
Okay. We got that now. All right. Thank you very much. Now his question is, the minimum wage you're talking about, does it affect private organizations? And it suffices for us to mention now that Workers' Day comprises, or workers in Nigeria comprises of both those in government establishment and in private sectors. So his question now is, the minimum wage you're talking about,
yes,
does it affect those in private sectors?
Those in private sectors, they have unions that are affiliated. They are pushing for these things all at the same time. Their Allied Workers Union and all those, they have an affiliation with the NLC. They agree on what needs to happen at every particular point in time. Now, when you talk about the private organizations, most of them, sincerely speaking, are not paying the minimum wage.
But the question is, are they supposed to pay?
It is supposed to be, because the Labor Act covers every employer.
Okay.
There's no segmentation to whether it is government employment or private employment. It is employment, employer and employee. So you find out that the Labor Act says when you employ someone, you're supposed to give the person an appointment letter. That applies to everybody.
Okay.
The minimum wage applies to everybody.
Okay.
Now, but when you look at the situation, that is why I'm saying the government is not doing enough. Some of the private establishments who employ people, they are not even able to pay salaries. Why? Because the enabling environment to run is not there. Imagine the situation we are in Nigeria today, where people are shutting down their businesses. Certainly obeyed when it comes to these things. So for taking care of the establishments. Private organizations, they pay the taxes to government, they make their small profit, they are supposed to take care of the people, they still go ahead to give the maternity leave, they still pay for the leave allowances and all these things, which the government agencies pay. Now you need to make the situation such that these private organizations can be able to stay above water.
Okay.
To continue.
Now, I want us to look at intimidation in the offices, both private and government. Intimidation coming from probably the people above you, like your superiors in the office. Is it supposed to be? Because we have seen worse conditions, or we've heard worse conditions rather, where probably even in the government, where someone looks at you and intimidates you, harasses you because he or she is your superior
in the office.
Yes, let's talk on that, because so many people are going through that right now.
I went through that in the past myself.
Okay.
And it's not a very palatable situation. It's still ongoing as we speak. But it all boils down to not making sure that the Labor Act is working. Okay. The agencies that are supposed to check employers are not doing much in that area. Apart from harassment as a superior, you have the sexual harassment.
Sure, it's still part of it.
You have those who would tell you, okay, because you've responded to me in this way, you will not get your salary at the end of the month. There are procedures for punishing people according to the act. Why are we not doing these things? It still comes back to enforcement of the law. Now, that is on one side. On the other side, are the workers educated enough to know their rights as workers? Most of them are not. Most of them are desperate to etch out a living for themselves.
Sure.
Now, but when you have a situation where people are under pressure to earn a living, it behoves the government and other civil society organizations to take it upon themselves to educate the people that yes, you want to earn a living, but you also need to be treated like a human being who has rights. So when these things are happening, it is because, number one, the education is not there. Two is that the government is not doing enough, because the agencies that should check all these things, you report to these people, they take it up and they make sure that justice is done. But do people know where they are going to report? How many workers know that if you're harassed in the office, I'm supposed to go to this person, write a letter to this organization?
In fact, I think the question should be, how many people are aware that there's an act covering workers?
Yes, that is where the education comes in. Workers are supposed to be educated on the act, Labor Act. Tell them what their rights are under the employment they have.
But you know, so many people evade this. So many private organizations.
Of course.
Even the government.
Yes.
They don't even want you to have access to that Labor Act. They don't want you to know what your right is. It's just all about come work, I pay.
You see, that's the other factor. If government, I will still keep hitting government. If government is actually doing what it's supposed to do, which is taking care of people who put you in the position, one of the cardinal points there is protection of the citizens. And how do you protect a citizen? Is by making sure the citizen understands his rights under the law. Now, when you're not making them understand their rights, you're busy chasing other things. The people will suffer. They will do things that are not right and wrong to themselves, most especially. The person just goes back to complain to friends and family, and they will tell you, you know what, it's been going on since God knows how long, so just manage it. Maybe with time you also become an oga. And then the person becomes an oga and thinks that is the way to live. Starts doing it to those people under him. So you find out that I had an experience where I tried by my own personal efforts to learn certain aspects of my job. And I met my boss and told him, this is what I've seen that could work for us.
All right.
So why don't we do that?
I think we'll have a call.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello, my name is Murtala.
Your name is what?
Mustafa.
Murtala.
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 Yes, I'm calling from Yobe State.
From where?
Yobe State.
Yobe State. Okay, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Are you with me?
Yes, sir. Your contribution or your question?
Okay, I don't know the topic that you are talking about.
Okay. We're actually celebrating Workers' Day.
Okay.
And we are looking at the living conditions of Nigerian workers.
Okay.
So, are there things you think we need to address here? Like what Nigerian workers are going through?
Yeah. The problem is that most of the Nigerian workers, especially in, I'm sorry to say, in northern Nigeria, they are not competent enough.
They are not competent enough.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. In as much as we didn't get a direction of what kind of competency he's talking about. That will take us back to what happened last year when Kaduna State governor.
The teachers in the Kaduna State
over how many teachers, and then based on competency, that they failed competency test. They were not able to pass primary 4 test and all that. I think this is exactly what he's talking about. He said, back here in the north, that most of the workers are not competent.
Yeah.
So, and I forgot to ask whether he's a worker or he's an ex-worker.
Or maybe he's an employer.
Good. So, while we talk about what the government owes, we'll still get back to talk about what workers, expectations of this government to the workers.
Okay.
So, probably you can just react to
but
this.
the fundamentals to competency is that how did that person gain the employment? You understand?
Yes.
In asking about somebody who is not competent, how did the person get to the job in the first place? Was there due diligence done when the person was interviewed? Were there other people who would have been more competent but were dropped off because of certain factors in the Nigerian balance, man no man, and all that? Now, see the number of teachers that were laid off in Kaduna State because they failed primary 4 tests. How did they get the employment? Now, you find out that both in the private sector and in the public sector, employment is now like a syndicate thing.
Sorry, sir. Hello? Please, can you turn down the volume of your TV set? Can you turn down the volume of your TV set? Oh, we lost that call.
Yeah. So you see, both in the private sector and in the public sector, employment is like a syndicate thing now. There are people who go to people and say, we can get you employment. Now they have insiders who they push these names to, whether they are qualified. You know, some people might have graduated, but the fact is that put them on the job, they will not deliver.
And then that brings us to the process of employment.
Yes.
How clear is or are the processes of employment in Nigeria? Because you talked about manu-mannerism,
yeah,
and then you're talking about of course everything is centered on manu-man, right?
Yes.
Good. Now, all right. Now, when you talk about manu-man, the process of employing people in Nigeria, both private and public, how competent are those people that have been employed? It takes over to the process of screening,
yes,
some things, aptitude test and interview and all that. But all that we'll consider, we'll go for a short break and we come back. We're going to look at the process or the processes of employment in Nigeria. whether it's worth it or it meets up to a standard that we are looking at. Please stay with us. Sorry.
Welcome to National Discourse.
Current affairs.
We must not extricate anybody from corruption. If any one of them is found wanting, the due course and the law must take its course.
Nation building.
Administration is slightly different from the last one in the fight against corruption.
We need to really task our leaders, who are the religious leaders, from the emir, from the bishops, from whoever they can.
Some of our village markets, there are people, they call them in Hausa yang nakama. They are like agberu in the markets.
Whatever anything is not useful to you is not important to you.
Politics.
What happened in Benue might be political. It still has an undertone, not political, dated way back. If you follow history,
it's interactive.
Not part of Nigeria.
Okay.
And it will not be good for us.
When they gather their people, they tell them, these Hausa people are your enemies. When Hausas gather together, they tell them, these Igbo people are your enemies. When the Yoruba people gather together, they say the same thing.
Who are we? We are just from the background. And today we are here in TSTV. And that is why we must propagate our own.
National Discourse. Weekdays on NCTV.
All right, welcome back from that short break, and of course we missed some calls during break. You can call back now. We can take your call. Now, before we went on break, we said you are coming back to discuss the processes of employment in Nigeria. How corrupt-free are these processes?
It's actually not as corrupt-free as we would want it to be. That's why you find out that people are being scammed left, right, and center with employment. These are employment syndicates.
So many people around me are fallen victims.
Yes. So you find out that if the rules of employment are being followed, there's no time you will have the scammers having their way. Wherever you see a counterfeit, there's an original. You understand? So it means that there's a syndicate that actually takes money from people to push people into jobs. Okay. Now, fraudsters step into the game, put out their adverts, take money from people, and fade away. It is because the system is not functioning as it should. It is not as efficient as it should. If people advertise for jobs, what happens most times is that after people send their CVs and all their credentials, there's a back-end game to the whole thing. If you actually want the job, come and pay 200,000 naira and get it done.
Can we take this call now? Hello? Yeah, good morning.
Hello. Good morning. Hello.
Very fine. Please, can you tune down the volume of your TV set? Hello. Can you please tune down the volume of your TV set? Oh, I've lost it.
So, until we start doing the right things, we cannot get the right people for the right jobs. Competency has to do with getting to know what the person can do when he gets on the job. Now, but when you employ people based on, I know his mother's elder brother's
my grandfather's
cousin, you understand?
Little cousin.
Yes, or
that.
he's taking, and you tell the guy, I have 10 slots for these positions. So if you can get 100,000 naira from people you know.
Okay.
Now the people will bring you people who are not competent.
All right. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Amici, calling from Enugu State.
Okay. Go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Okay, my contribution goes to the youth because when I was in primary school, to my secondary, to my university level, I do hear the saying that we're leaders of tomorrow. And since then, the faces have been seen at the same pace that led my father, even to my own level. So now my question is, what is the youth going to do about the taking over the government in terms of politics?
Okay, thank you very much. You heard that very clear.
Yes, I heard him very well.
Are you done, sir? Hello?
Okay, so just like what the last Mr. President said about the youth, it is because he feels we are lazy. He's not seeing the outside Nigerians what is really going on. I think the the youth have the power to take over Nigeria if they want to. It is because we are not using our power well. That is why the Mr. President said we are lazy. Not in terms of whether we are working or we are not working. So my contribution is that let the whole Nigerian youth come out in 2019. It's time for them to take what belongs to them and make Nigeria a better place.
All right, thank you very much. You heard that.
Yes, I heard him very well.
So still talking about the process of employment, and his own contribution is the youth are not actually doing enough.
Forthcoming.
They are not forthcoming. Because that is the only reason you keep having the same faces. And that goes to, after this call, we're going to look at why the age of retirement, whether it's being followed.
Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, I call back.
Okay.
It's Murtala Sharif from your state again.
Okay. Murtala from your state.
Yes, as your colleague said that I am not an employee.
Sorry?
Said that I am an employer.
No, it's maybe we are
But I am an employee. I'm working right now. I'm working in one of the private schools in my locality.
Okay.
So what happened recently in Kaduna State about primary school teachers was an shame. Because a primary school teacher.
We lost that call. Okay, we believe you're watching. He didn't actually say maybe you are not an employee. There are always two sides of the coin. So it's either you're an employer or an employee, or you're just on your own. Even if you're on, which means you're an employer, which means you have people.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Is it being followed? Second to the last caller said, we keep seeing the same faces, not only in the political sphere. Let's talk about in the service too.
Yes. You see, there's this balance they call the football age. Okay.
Hello. Hello. Yeah. Good morning. Please, can you speak up? Hello. Hello. We lost it. Okay, now if you go to civil service for you're graduating, work is already looking for you. Yes. People come down to your school or a graduating parade ground to come and search for people to give these employment opportunities to. So what happens to those all, and then what are we doing about it now, like falsifying of age?
You see, that's why I earlier said that corruption is not only when people take money from our coffers.
Can we take this call together? Hello? Hello? Yeah, good morning.
Okay, my name is Chris. I'm calling from Lagos.
Okay. Chris from Lagos.
My contribution is that talking about retirement age and all that you are talking about, everything in this country borders on corruption. Things are not being done properly. Yes, there is job. I heard you saying that there is no work. There is work. You know that most companies, not only the foreign companies, go to most banks. Most of the people you see at the front of the counter that people call bankers, they are casual staff. Most of them are paid 50,000 naira monthly. They are meant to resume before 7 o'clock. They are at work till 10 at times. Weekend start Sunday, they are at work. And so some banks pay as low as 25,000 naira to most of these people. You see, there is work. Most of the establishments now choose to casualize, and that is when labor has equally failed. Even talking about the retirement age and everything, how long or how often do we audit to know the people who are supposed to retire? To know the actual age of people. Most companies are not even part of the Nigerian Labour Union. And the Nigerian workers are not ready to be part of the union because they felt that over time, Labour has failed. I have witnessed some people laid out of jobs because they protested, they wanted to be part of the union. And the Labour came in and after that they said, okay, remain. And maybe after some months, the companies will lay them off. And they will be working on the street and nothing will happen. Nothing is working in the country because everybody is corrupt, from Labour to government, everybody. There is corruption. That is the major problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Probably you could quickly react to this.
Yes, you see, I was on that point. Corruption is the bane of everything we have today in Nigeria. When labor itself, like I said earlier, they are not doing nothing. When you say they are not doing enough, that means they are doing something. Has labor checked out companies, private institutions that are registered with them? Because when you're not registered with the labor unions, you do whatever you like. Nobody checks you. Still corruption. Employers do not want to get involved because they know that once they get involved, the welfare of their workers will be taken into consideration by the labor unions. So they try to swerve that aspect of joining the labor unions so they can exploit their staff. On the other side, government, which is supposed to enforce the Labor Act, what are they doing? So between labor and government, I think there's
very big gap.
I don't think it's actually okay, a positive gap and a negative collaboration. There's a positive gap because things are not working the way it should if they were collaborating very well. But they are collaborating in silence to make sure that the workers are always down pressed. Because what he just explained now, people are sacked. If you look at the...
And Nigerian Labour Congress does nothing about it.
Nobody does nothing about it. People are laid off. When you even go to check, the person who is laid off needs money to start processing whatever he needs to process to get his due.
Sorry. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Grace. I'm calling from Kogi State.
Okay.
Yes, my contribution to this is actually the labor is not doing enough. That's one. Because like the state I come from, the old minimum wage is still yet to be implemented. And as we all know that the government of the day is still owing over 2 years.
Yes, 22 months.
We are trying to organize, or there's been a set of committee on a new minimum wage. What will be the fate of the Kogi State workers that even the previous minimum wage has not been implemented? Then you are bringing up the new one. What is the labor doing about it? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We were actually, it was supposed to be our last point, like those that are not complying to even the little minimum wage. Because during this program yesterday, someone called us from Kogi State and complained of them being owed 22 months salary. That's over 2 years. So what's I really don't want to say Nigerian labor again because it's obviously very, very obvious that they're not doing anything.
Labor is invisible in this.
Because I asked a question here and I asked my guest, does it mean there is no higher authority that can give instructions or a directive to be complied with immediately for these governors to pay up? Now, you can imagine the dilapidated conditions in Kogi State that people are not paid, even the little minimum wage of 18,000 naira for over 2 years. And then you still force them to come to work. They must come to work. And in most cases, they are being threatened. If you don't come to work, you will lose your job. Now, what are we doing about it? What is the government doing about it?
You see, it's like I said earlier, you don't need to paint it. The government and labor are in bed. It's obvious. The caller before the second to the last caller said the youth needs to wake up. For me, Kogi State youth should have marched on the street The governor of every single state in this country was voted in by people. And if you look at the voting pattern, we have more of the youths voting.
Sure.
So why would they sit down and expect their parents to die of hunger? They themselves can't even help themselves because they are dependent on their parents and guardians who are not being paid. When we start doing the things we need to start doing right, people like the governor of Kogi State and all these other governors who think, yes, they can invest money in frivolities while they force workers to come to work every day. The masses need to stand up and do what they need to do.
Okay, can I pick this call? Hello? We lost it.
Yeah, so I am calling on the masses, the youth of every state that is being owed to march out on the street. If you're waiting for labor, forget it. Labor is sleeping. Labor is obviously sleeping. It's very obvious they are not interested. It's all about grammar and no actions. We've seen what labor can do in the past. Today, nothing is happening. People are being owed salaries in states like Kogi. Kogi is in a sorry state. Schools, teachers who are supposed to come and teach students, they need to trek. They need to trek to school.
Sorry, can I pick this call? Hello? Yeah, good morning to you.
Yes,
This is your name and where you're calling from?
From Abuja.
Your name is what?
My name is Joy. I'm calling from Abuja.
Okay, okay. Please, your contribution or your question.
I'm enjoying the show. Your
Thank
guest
you.
is very exposed to the aspect of national issues. Yeah, but you ask the question, if there is any authority that can have the directive to instruct governors and compensate salary to it, whether under compulsion or by the law. I want to find out, based on the exclusive list and the concurrent list of the law, does it give the Senate or the presidency the right to bring to book any governor or anybody in power that is fitting to even do as little as paying minimum wage in Nigeria?
Okay.
Does that really need to do with the exclusive list or the concurrent list? So I'm so concerned about it. Where a governor is defaulting, is there any higher power like the Senate that can call that governor to order? Because it's not just about the state of the law that I'm talking about, and the state of the human rights of the citizens of Nigeria. That is where I'm concerned.
All right, thank you very much, Joy, for calling. Oh, so you can quickly react to that.
Thank you very much, Joy. The state assemblies of these states who are owing are also sleeping. The first area that should be looked at is the state assembly. When the governor is not doing what he should be doing, it is the state assembly that should make him sit up. But what do we have now? The state assembly is made comfortable by the sweat of the people, so they don't hold the governor accountable. Just like the National Assembly holds the president accountable and holds him to that point where he has to do what needs to be done for the nation, likewise the state assemblies are supposed to hold the governor responsible. Okay. That is the first port of call.
All right, now quickly let me ask this question before you continue. On Saturday, we saw a recall verification process of Senator Dino Melaye. My question is, and I know it might be running through the minds of people out there, is, can a governor go through that process?
Yes.
Can you recall a governor?
It's not about recall, it's about impeachment, which the state assembly has the power to do.
Okay.
So if the governor is not doing what the state wants him to do, why he was put in that seat, on that seat, the state assembly comes together, looks at the situation, analyzes it in the interest of the masses.
Okay, now
the citizens of the state.
Where I'm going in all of this is,
you can actually,
when you're talking about a recall process,
yes,
is the masses that are actively participating directly in it.
That is for the constituents of like the senator or the House of Reps.
Good. Now, when we have a governor, you're talking about the state assembly sitting down. Remember, this is politics, all right? And there is no how you can bite the finger that fits you.
No, the governor did not put them there.
I know. But he is the governor in charge of the state. And of course, you know what power of incumbency can do.
That power is what we need to break.
Exactly what I'm saying. Now, is it possible there should be a clause, or should the law be amended that the people actively directly participate in this process of unseating their governor?
The laws are there for the state assembly to do what they need to do. But the Nigerian factor, which makes everybody wants to go for a Ghana must go, is what we are suffering today. If you want to remove a governor from office, the state assembly will start the process. Once they have facts on ground that needs to push for that, and they need to push for that, the law is already there. All they need to do is invoke it.
Good. Now, for the records, have we had any governor that have been impeached in Nigeria in the recent times, let's say from 1999 to date?
Anambra State had one, Etiaba.
Sorry, can I pick this? This will be our last call. Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from, please.
My name is Dauda. I'm calling from Kano.
Oh, can you turn down the volume of your TV set? Oh, we lost that call. Okay, please, for our callers, before you call, just make sure that you tune down the volume of your TV set so we can hear you very clearly. Okay, sir.
The truth is that impeachments have been made. But the question is, was it made based on the interest of the people or based on political leanings? You understand? When governors are impeached now, go and check your records. Or when impeachment moves are made, it is not in the best interest of the people. It is in the best interest of politicians.
That was why I was asking this question. Where I was headed is it possible that the masses participate directly to these processes? Because if you are taking it to the state assembly, it becomes political.
Yes, now that is
and
where
the interest of the people will not be represented.
Social activism is needed in Nigeria and needed now more than ever.
Okay.
If you refuse to do, the state assembly members were voted into that place by people in their localities. You understand? And that is the closest, apart from the local government and the ward level, to the grassroots.
Okay.
So if they are not doing what they should be doing, the masses should stand up. Civil disobedience is not a crime. It has never been and it will never be. If you refuse to do the things you're supposed to do, we as youth will rise up and do what we need to do to make you do what you're supposed to do. That's where we should be going now.
That's right. And it's actually a wake-up call for the youth too.
Yes.
Because we can't keep complaining that we are not given opportunity. We are not seeing the limelight politically, otherwise, and in every sphere. Look at our sectors. Most of them are being ruled by, I don't want to say old people, but people that are not youth. So it's a wake-up call for youth again, even as we celebrate Workers' Day today. Sir, thank you very much. Unfortunately, this is where we'll wrap up today for Workers' Day. Thank you for giving us so much insight into this topic. And for people that are watching, we have seen there are so many conditions that are like living hell that workers had to go through. But what do we do about it? Like you said, let us wake up. It's a wake-up call for us. And how do you wake up? Go register, get your PVCs ready. If you sit and you keep complaining that things are not working and you're not taking any positive step to it, we'll still suffering. We keep suffering the same thing. And to Nigerian workers out there, happy Workers' Day. All will be well.
Oh, I wish you a happy Workers' Day, even though he's not happy. That's the blunt truth. So just manage your life today. Be happy and go get your PVC and take those guys out who are making sure that we are all suffering. Thank you very much.
All right, from me is a wrap. It's Uche Uduma wrapping up on National Discourse.